Let me tell you, it has been a month, 1 month, since that horrible massacre in Uvalde, Texas. Tonight, new details into that mass shooting, including a lawsuit that is on the works and being filed. But first, let's hear from the father of Uvalde. This is one of the very latest that is going on. Now, in case you weren't around, let's give you guys a quick recap. May 24th happened when an 18-year-old went in with an AR-15, the deadliest weapon ever. Fired a lot of kids. It shot a lot of kids. Injured and injured the teachers. The police had to wait over an hour for keys and for it to open. The police chief in charge was Pete Arredondo, who forgot his walkie. The kids were in there calling 911 during that time. Plus Arredondo had the keys. Couldn't find the master key, but it didn't work, though he used explicit language. Now, several weeks later, Senate hearings have been happening to where recapping school safety. And just days ago, Beeville ISD is one of the many school districts who are going to be having a change of security during the next school year. Let's take a look at Beeville ISD's clear bag policy.
G'day. Next time you take a vacation.
Next time you take a vacation, you mean no more ads on YouTube.
Officials with the Beeville ISD have announced they will be implementing a clear bag policy this upcoming school year. This will be required for all campuses and athletic facilities. The policy, they say, is being implemented as an added security measure for the safety of students, staff, families, and facilities.
And you cannot.
Plus yesterday, Brooks County ISD is looking to spend $2 million in security.
Newscast in Falfurrias as the school district superintendent says it's going to cost at least $2 million to fortify and protect the schools there.
Yeah, on top of that, the district is set to begin its new year-round schedule. That means the new school year starts on July 25th. Michael Gibson has more on the security concerns at Brooks County Schools in tonight's top story.
Preliminary. You're talking at least $200,000.
July 25th.
Changing the doors designs, the gates, $200,000. So we're almost close to $2 million.
Brooks County Superintendent Dr. Maria Rodriguez Casas says it's going to cost at least $2 million to make all of the new security improvements needed after Uvalde. The question is where the money is going to come from to do all of that, which includes a wish list of having an armed officer at every single school campus.
I have a responsibility to protect the lives of our students, our staff, and that have a tremendous impact. I don't have the resources. Do you think that if I had the funds to hire SROs, I would be hesitating?
Right now, the school district has an agreement to provide an office for DPS officers to work out of at the high school. The police department has also provided a school resource officer at the high school. But what about the junior high and elementary school?
We're in the process already of trying to find people to get this done to meet her need. And if we can't, then guess what? We're gonna do something else to make it happen.
The superintendent added that bus drivers and maintenance workers have undergone security training to act as another set of eyes and provide one more layer of protection for the students and teachers here. Michael Gibson, 3 News.
And $2 million is a lot of money. But look at that, you're spending $2 million. That's good to increase security. What about all the other school districts? Well, if you remember a few days ago, I talked about an incident that happened in Flower Bluff to where they're probably not going to get teachers raises because they're going to focus in more on athletics. One person came forward on Facebook saying they got to cut the athletic budget. Another person commented like, that was a waste of money. And I had to agree. If you would spend that money on security, then Flower Bluff would be safe. No excuses. Period. Period. Well, coming up next, the father of the Uvalde school shooting is speaking out. Also, the Supreme Court's ruling on open carry laws, and a lawsuit that is in the works. Up front tonight, it has been 1 month since the Uvalde school shooting at Hobbs Elementary. Now, there are new developments into this, and we'll get to those new developments in just a minute. I want to take you now to a father who is now speaking out and telling his story to Fox 26 after what happened. Take a look.
We are hearing tonight from a heartbroken father in Uvalde, exactly 1 month after that horrific mass shooting, Rashi.
That's right. Can't imagine what he is going through. A gunman killed his daughter and 18 others and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary. It's been 1 month since this mass shooting. Well, Fox's Ashley Soriano joining us live now from Uvalde. So, Ashley, can't imagine what that community is going through. How are they holding up?
Good evening, Rashi and Tom. Well, when you drive down the road, you'll see banners and restaurant signs that read Uvalde Strong and Praying for Uvalde. You can see this memorial behind me. It's growing every day with a consistent flow of people dropping off flowers, cards, and stuffed animals. A lot of different emotions here, of course: frustration, anger, sadness, exhaustion. I spoke to the father of one of the victims. He said he goes into his daughter's room every day and talks to her.
I talked to her like she was still there, and it helps, it really does. And I still go in there and say good morning, and I say good night. Like she's in my mind, she's still there.
9-year-old Jackie was a student at Robb Elementary. She was in class on May 24th, the day the gunman shot up the school. June 10th was supposed to be Jackie's 10th birthday.
Smart little girl. She was feisty. She's a little go-getter. She loved to help other people out. She the type of person that would give her shirt off her back if she could to help somebody out.
Jackie loved to sing and dance too, and she had big dreams for her future.
She loved animals. She wanted to become a vet, and one of her dreams was to go to Paris. So that's something that unfortunately that we want to do, in her spirit, in her honor.
It's a tough road ahead.
We go back and look at pictures and videos, and then we have, and that makes us happy. Then we have those times that we get that little punch in the chest, that you can't help but cry.
But Javier Cáceres says he and his family are fighting every day to heal.
It'd be different if it was, if she had cancer or something, getting to know that, one day she might pass. But it's the way she was brutally taken from us. That's a different story, and it hurts harder. But we're strong, and we're trying to get through it. It's gonna be very hard to. I can't say we're going to stop breeding because we can't, and my baby's gone.
The family likes to paint rocks together and hide them kind of like a scavenger hunt. Javier Cáceres says the family will keep the tradition going, but they'll leave rocks at Jackie's gravesite. And he wants parents to hug your kids and kiss them a little extra harder tonight. In Uvalde, Texas, Ashley Soriano, Fox 26 News.
That was exciting. But 1 month ever since, there is now a new gun safety bill. So let's look at that new legislation.
Well, the first major new gun control legislation in some 30 years is on its way to the White House now to be signed into law. The bipartisan legislation will enhance gun background checks for people under 21. It sets aside $750 million to give to states that implement red flag laws designed to temporarily seize guns from people deemed dangerous. And it closes the so-called boyfriend loophole, preventing someone who's been convicted of domestic abuse but lives outside of victim's home from buying a gun. 15 Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham, joined Democrats in passing the bill in the Senate. 14 Republicans in the House voted for the legislation as well.
Very super. That's one step away from becoming a law. If it passes, it could really shed light. It really could shed light on what happened. Background checks for under 21, that's needed. However, if that law was passed 30 years ago and people like Ethan Crumley shot up the school, then what would have happened was this and that and the other. He would have been caught. The parents would have been sent to jail, and this and that and the other. This would have been out of the public, and because what we're doing right now is like, it's like this. We're bouncing off the wall here. And you know, I've covered a lot of stories throughout the 5 years here, and this really has to take the cake. But just 2 days ago, he was put on a leave of he was denied a leave of absence. But now what else needs to happen here is more gun laws need to be made. There needs to be more background checks for everyone. And what does New York have to say about its Supreme Court ruling? Let's take a look.
Winding down for Supreme Court justices and the remaining opinions that they should be expected to hand down.
Yeah, there's some anticipation building around that challenge to Roe versus Wade that you've heard us talk so much about. Also, immigration policy, which would directly impact the state of Texas. Chris Sadeghi is with us in studio this morning. Chris, ruling on a gun law yesterday's got a lot of folks' attention this morning.
Yes, Mark, as the country wrestles with how to respond to these mass shootings, it was an up and down day in the battle between gun control and Second Amendment rights yesterday. Even though Congress made significant strides on gun legislation, the Supreme Court handed down this decision, which will undo a different law. Now, this really won't have an impact here in Texas, where we have some of the least restrictive laws in the country when it comes to carrying a gun, but it could have a big impact in New York and 7 other states with proper cause laws. The court struck down the New York law dating back more than 100 years that requires gun owners to have a special need or cause in order to get the license to conceal carry a handgun. It was a 6-3 vote with all 6 conservative judges voting to strike the law, and the 3 liberal judges dissenting. The decision drew praise from the NRA, but criticism from the governor of New York and the mayor of New York City, who fear it will put more guns on their streets. President Joe Biden also chimed in yesterday.
I think it's a bad decision. I think it's not reasoned accurately, but I'm disappointed.
And a new Gallup poll shows it is a growing number disappointed in the Supreme Court. The poll says American confidence in the court has dipped to its lowest point ever, just 25% saying they have a great deal of confidence, and there could soon be more to be happy or upset about. The court added today as a decision day for more rulings to be released. We're still awaiting a possible Roe v. Wade decision that was subject of that leaked draft back in May.
That could happen. But there is more hearings to continue in Uvalde. Still ahead, a lawsuit is in the works. Then, what does that new gun bill cover? We focused in on it, on what it could happen, but what else can it cover when we come back? I want to bring you up to date on Oxford right now. If you guys remember, this season we focused in on the mass shooting in Oxford, Michigan, where then 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley shot up the school. His parents bought him that gun. He shot up the school. He's arrested for murder. His parents, James and Jennifer, are charged with involuntary manslaughter. Now, just 2 days ago, the trial, Ethan Crumbley's trial, is delayed 4 months. The decision to move the teenage trial from September to January came one day after another judge ordered the release of all evidence held by the county sheriff's office relating to the November 3 massacre shooting, including that surveillance video which we had never talked about. The prosecutor will try to stop release of Oxford High shooting evidence in that silver suit. Mind you, there are lots of lawsuits happening from parents, from our other attorneys. There's lots of other civil lawsuits that we have talked about over these months. Their son's trial is scheduled for September, but has now been pushed to January 17th. That's when a jury will decide the fate of 16-year-old Ethan Crumbley, who is charged with the deaths of 4 students and the wounding of 6 students and a teacher. The next hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m. on July 21st. Now, what about the parents? The accused Michigan school shooter's parents will face involuntary manslaughter charges. That's what the judge ruled. The judge said a lower court had ruled correctly that Crumbley's parents can stand trial for the charges. They were each charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter after 13 years ago allegedly shot and killed 4 students and injured 7 other people at Oxford High School in November. Both of them have pled not guilty, and their attorneys have argued in court documents that the charges had no legal justification and the couple should not be held responsible for the killings their son is accused of killing. But earlier this month, there was new court filings. Prosecutors argued to keep the manslaughter charges against the parents, saying their gross negligence allowed their son access to the murder weapon and allowed him to remain in school with that murder weapon, adding that their negligence was a substantial factor in the killings. In her ruling on Wednesday, Matthews sided with prosecutors and said a reasonable juror could conclude that Ethan Crumbley's actions were reasonably foreseeable and his parents' actions could be seen or linked as it is. The county sheriff told CNN in a statement that he does not oppose the release of evidence as long as it doesn't cause failed trial issues. We'll keep you posted. But the chief assistant prosecutor said to CNN in a statement that the families and their attorneys have been ordered to have the opportunity to view the video and other evidence when they are ready to the security of either the Oakland County Sheriff's Office or the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. But if that video is released to the public, we will play it for you. But we'll keep you posted on what's been going on. And on July 9th, a new episode comes in, we will update you on net on his trial. Give me a break, we'll be right back. Let me tell you, it has been 1 month since that mass shooting, but still many things are happening. The first federal lawsuit tied to the shooting is expected to be filed soon.
Today marks 1 month since the Uvalde school shooting. The lives of 19 children and 2 teachers senselessly taken. As more information is coming to light about the shooting at Robb Elementary, a local attorney is preparing what would be the first federal lawsuit related to the shooting. San Antonio attorney Sean Brown is representing 2 Robb Elementary students, including one who was shot and survived. He plans to file that federal complaint in the next 2 weeks. Tonight, I sat down with him to discuss the case in this exclusive interview.
The shooter was yelling obscene things, that he played real weird music that was going on. He told them they were all going to die.
Attorney Sean Brown describes the terror inside Robb Elementary. All relayed to him through the family of his client, a 10-year-old survivor who was shot in the leg.
These poor kids went from the highest of highs. They had a award ceremony that morning, their last day of school, last days of school, and then, just total chaos breaks out.
And it is that chaos which is at the center of a federal lawsuit which will be filed in the coming days. The police response, the locks that didn't work, the mental health of the shooter, the agonizing wait for help. All things, Brown says, contributing to the tragedy that unfolded that day.
What we would be showing is negligence, and I think to say that these officers were negligent is giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't even think that term is strong enough for their lack of action and what they did.
The lawsuit will name the city of Uvalde, the district and key officers, and possibly the door lock manufacturer. Brown admits it's a challenging case, with the question of qualified immunity also at play. Brown says being able to prove negligence on the part of police may open a pathway to overcome it, depending on the facts.
They're there to protect and serve. And I don't know if you could find anybody in the Uvalde community or anywhere for that matter to believe that those officers or the officer who was in command was protecting and serving the people of Uvalde.
Now, Brown says his team is waiting for the results of the investigation and the shooter's autopsy report, which could also factor into the case.
And it could shed some light. And hearings continue.
All right, Chris, thank you. Today marks 1 month since that mass shooting in Uvalde, and the pain still palpable for victims' families and the community there. State lawmakers still have a ways to go in the investigation. 2 Texas State House committees met yesterday to discuss school and firearm safety. By the way, this is separate from the special committees formed after Uvalde. They heard testimony from the sister of one of the children killed at Robb Elementary. Jasmine Casares is the sister of Jackie and the cousin of Annabelle Rodriguez.
And I'm here begging for you guys to do something. Or to change something, because the people that were supposed to keep her safe at school didn't. They failed.
During her testimony, Jasmine asked lawmakers to implement red flag laws and asked why classroom doors didn't lock, despite that being one of the safety measures outlined in the campus policy.
But there is new evidence. There could be some new light on that door. See if I can find it for you. Here is one from that law enforcement response.
Right with the head of Texas DPS, because we're getting a clearer picture of the frustrating delays responding to the Robb Elementary School shooting.
The comments he made just a short time ago today during a Texas Senate committee hearing investigating the shooting honestly are just tough to hear. Jack Fink joining us. He's been listening in for you. This is still ongoing, right? This goes well into the night tonight?
That's right, Doug. There are a lot of witnesses, but we are focusing on the comments from the head of Texas DPS. Simply put, he said the on-scene commander and law enforcement officers had the tools they needed to go after the shooter quickly.
There's compelling evidence that the law enforcement response to the attack at Robb Elementary was an abject failure.
Texas DPS Director Steve McCraw didn't hold back. He said it took 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds for law enforcement officers who were waiting in a hallway to confront the 18-year-old gunman who had already fired 100 rounds of ammunition at students and teachers inside classrooms 111 and 112. But McCraw insisted law enforcement could have targeted the shooter almost immediately.
3 minutes after the subject entered the West Building, there was a sufficient number of armed officers wearing body armor to isolate, distract, and neutralize the subject.
McCraw blamed Uvalde ISD Police Chief Pete Arredondo, the on-scene commander. He was seen entering an elevator at the Capitol today after testifying at a House hearing out of the public's view. Even with officers, firepower, and equipment arriving on scene, McCraw said Arredondo kept delaying action.
I don't care if you have flip-flops and wearing Bermuda shorts. It doesn't matter. You go in.
McCraw said the gunman entered the school through an unlocked door.
On the exterior doors, the locks were working fine. Someone did not lock that door.
He said the classroom doors were also unlocked and could have only been locked if the teacher had used a key to lock it from outside the room.
There's no way to lock the door from the inside, and there's no way for the subject to lock the door from the inside.
Yet he said Arredondo kept searching for a key to unlock the classroom door when they didn't need one.
How about trying the door and see if it's unlocked? No one had.
Had the doors to the classroom been locked, he said, the students and teachers could still be alive today.
Exactly.
3 minutes would have made a difference. We kept him out for 3 minutes. Those officers would have been in the hallway, and he could have never got to 111, 112. They'd been dead.
As to the school's exterior doors, McCraw said they don't know who unlocked them. He said schools need to be hardened more and law enforcement training needs to be improved. The law enforcement response, he said, went against everything they've learned since the massacre at Columbine High School 2 decades ago.
So one thing you hear echoed from everybody you talk to is they say, why didn't they charge in? Because that is the lesson from over 20 years ago.
And it's the instinct of most first responders and people who have kids in the building. Sure. We talked and heard from parents who said, I wanted to go in. But the other big question that folks have been wondering about, Jack, is what about the gunman? What did we learn about him in the days leading up to the shooting? Anything that could have been missed or stopped?
Well, Nicole, the McGraw said that the gunman purchased 2 rifles and more than 2,100 rounds of ammunition in the days before the shooting. He also said that on social media messaging, someone asked the gunman if he had plans to shoot up an elementary school. The gunman said, "You'll see." That was 10 days before. The person who received his message did not report it. We also know that the gunman messaged a girl in Germany that he had killed his grandmother and was planning to shoot up at an elementary school. And just 10 minutes later, he fired the first shots at Robb Elementary.
All right, sure. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. As again, the testimony continues into the night.
Until midnight.
Yeah, thanks.
And like we talked about, the truth of the matter is that 66% of people tell 2 or more people. 80% of them tell at least one person where they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. What you should be focused on is when you hear something, you need to do something. That's the whole point of this show. Is when I hear something, you do something. But there is new evidence. There's new latest on Pete Arredondo. as we talked about before, he was denied by the city council to place on leave. But just now, he's off the job because of that incident.
Reporting the embattled school police chief in Uvalde.
Now, this was the day before the month of the shooting happened. Let's take a look.
Reporting the embattled school police chief in Uvalde, Texas, has been placed on administrative leave.
Bravo. It's about time. He should never be allowed to work in law enforcement again.
As more law enforcement agencies face criticism for their response to the massacre at Robb Elementary last month.
We deserve the truth, and we deserve answers, and we deserve them now.
Some critics now demanding Pete Arredondo resign after learning that he entered the school just minutes after the gunman. But for more than an hour, he and his officers delayed entry into the classroom where 19 students and 2 teachers were killed. Arredondo has said he did not consider himself in charge at the time the massacre was unfolding. Multiple agencies also responded, including the Uvalde Police Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety, U.S. Border Patrol, and the U.S. Marshal Service. And now State Senator Roland Gutierrez is suing the Texas Department of Public Safety after the agency denied his request for records related to the shooting.
I want to know where the officers were on site, where they situated themselves, who they were listening to, which orders they were taking, body cam information if it's necessary.
On Monday, the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety testified in front of state lawmakers.
The officers had weapons. The children had none.
Stephen McCraw said his agency's investigation found the response led by Arredondo was an abject failure. But Senator Gutierrez wants to know why McCraw's troopers also failed to act sooner.
We found out that there's 91 DPS troopers, all Operation Lone Star, including their commanders. 12 of them were in that hallway for periods of time and apparently listened to no one other than was walking in and out of there.
The Texas Department of Public Safety did not immediately respond to the lawsuit. As for Pete Arredondo, he's now on leave from his job as school police chief, but he remains on the Uvalde City Council.
That's harsh. You're placed on leave from the school, but you're not placed on leave with the city council? In the words of George Lopez, that look at me on leave for school, but not placed on leave for the city council. Give me a break. You should be able to be placed on leave for city council and the school, not go the other way around. You're sticking, like I said on Wednesday, sticking the finger in the fan and cutting the arm off. You don't remember. Sticking the finger in the fan is equivalent to doing something stupid. Cutting the arm is you won't do it again. Sticking the finger in the fan is being resigned, is being removed from the school. Placed on leave from the school. Right. So cutting the arm off is not being placed on leave by the city council. Exactly. Agreed. Very much agree. So what's going to happen now? We don't know. But we'll keep bringing the very latest. And on Saturday, the former Sandy Hook Elementary officer told News Nation that they should all be fired. We'll hear his side on Saturday. That's Give Me a Break for now. Join all of us at YouTube next time for another edition of Give Me a Break. Good night.